What can you tell us about why we're getting a different McGregor in front of the microphone before this fight?
Yeah, it's a really great point because he does seem very different from the last time we saw him prior to a UFC fight, which was in October of 2018. I mean, I think it comes down to this. This was a man who not that long ago had nothing. He was on social welfare in Ireland, and we all know about the rise and how much money he made, and Mayweather and all that stuff. And then last year he had the most tumultuous year of his life, and he was in trouble. He was spending more time in courtrooms and jail cells than he was in the octagon. He didn't fight once in 2019. And I think he's a guy who had nothing and then got everything and then was facing losing everything. And I think he finally saw the light around 6 or so months ago. And I think maybe the turning point for him, if I may say so, was when that video was released of him punching the old man in the bar, and he was incredibly embarrassed and very apologetic when that came out, and really felt bad that he seemed to be losing his Irish fans. They had supported him so well over the years. And I think he really just started to, get on the straight and narrow. And his team kept telling me before talking to him, he's different. He's changed. He's going to bed early. He's waking up early. He's not drinking, all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, right. This is the same cliche stuff that I hear before every fight. And then I sat down with him and I spoke to him for an hour, and then I believed it. So we'll see on Saturday what that translates into. But the guy right now is definitely a changed man, at least as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, no doubt. Punching the old guy in the bar was a bad look, especially when the old guy just flinched barely. At
didn't
the
really
punch.
move.
That didn't help a whole lot either. So the whole package, though, does it hurt his persona overall? Because we're used to this wild type of a guy. I don't mean the law breaking, but especially the press conferences. Does that kind of hurt the overall thought of Conor McGregor if he mutes that some?
I don't think so, because remember, everyone fell in love with this Conor McGregor. When he first came into the UFC, he was very funny. He was charming. He was calling people out, but he was doing it in a relatively respectful way. It's only in the last couple of years that it became somewhat dark and mean-spirited. And he talks about the venom and the vitriol leading up to the Khabib fight, and even leading up to the Mayweather fight. At times, the rhetoric was just not very comfortable. It was not fun. And I think fans got tired of that, and they didn't want that anymore. They wanted the Mystic Mac. They wanted the predictions. They just wanted, the guy who was so charming and, incredible quotes. He thinks of these things off the top of his head. I mean, he's just one of the best trash talkers and just talkers, period, in the history of the sport. And so I think it's been a really nice fight week. I mean, no real drama, no real trash talk, no real tension between them. And I think everyone has just kind of been like, this is nice, because let me tell you, obviously so much has happened since then, but like that build up to the Khabib fight, that was just not fun. That, like, we were talking about religion and family and all this stuff, and this is not why we love MMA, and this is not why we love Conor McGregor. The fans didn't fall in love with him because of that. So I think this has been a nice change, a breath of fresh air.
Ariel Helwani joining us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Protect your engine this winter. Use Pennzoil synthetic motor oil made from natural gas, not crude oil. So we're talking about mostly Conor McGregor here, Ariel, because he is the star, he is the name, but this is a real chance for Cowboy Cerrone, who has been through some horrific stuff in his career, injury-wise. Over 100 bones broken, was disemboweled by an ATV, was stepped on by a bull. I mean, it's ridiculous, the stuff that he's gone through, but he's also been that guy who, when he gets into those big fights, comes up a little short, and it feels like he's sounding like he's a lot more confident now heading into this fight.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, look, no one put a cowboy hat on Donald Cerrone's head at the beginning of his career and was like, all right, this is a good gimmick for you. This man, to steal the UFC slogan from way back in the day, is as real as it gets. Like, he's a legit cowboy. I don't know how many cowboys are still on this planet, but he is one of them. He lives that lifestyle. He has fought everyone. He never turns down a fight. He has always accepted, even if the fight didn't really make sense for him. And I think some fans have been disrespectful towards him a little bit. This is the winningest fighter in UFC history. And yes, he's lost his last two in a row, but like, come on. I mean, the guy has been around the block, and the knock on him, I could say this proudly as a Buffalo Bills fan. He's almost like the Buffalo Bills of the UFC. He always makes it to the big one, but he stumbles in the big one. And now he has a chance to maybe change that legacy, that narrative for his career, because there's no bigger one than Conor McGregor. Of course, there's no belt on the line on Saturday night, but if he can win this one, maybe as his career, starts to, reach the tail end, maybe he can start telling people that, yeah, you know what, I did win a couple big ones along the way. What I appreciate about Cowboy is, despite, the bravado and the cowboy stuff and all that, this man talks openly about how he gets really nervous before fights. In fact, he talked about being in the locker room and telling his coaches he wanted to go back to the hotel. So it's kind of an interesting, juxtaposition from his personality. And so I'm curious, when the lights are shining brightest on Saturday, who's going to show up? We'll find out.
Have to appreciate that level of honesty. Certainly pretty uncommon from athletes at this level, regardless of sport. As we talked to Ariel Helwani with us on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Again, you can check out Ariel Helwani's MMA show on ESPN Radio Saturday, 4 to 7 Eastern, and also the Ariel Helwani Show podcast, wherever you get your podcast. You mentioned, though, this isn't a fight for a belt necessarily, but we know there's a lot on the line for both. And is this a situation for Conor McGregor where, as we heard Dana White intimate, all roads lead to, if this goes well, the potential for a rematch with Khabib?
And by the way, what about the great folks at ESPN Radio, Justin Craig and company, giving me 3 hours on Conference Championship Saturday, the day before? That's pretty incredible. MMA getting 3 hours on the radio. Can I just say that's a pretty amazing thing?
Yes, it is.
What a huge deal for the sport. That's, something a year ago I could have never dreamed of. So it's a huge honor for me. To go back to the question, there's a lot at stake for Conor. I don't think if he loses so many of his options. But there's a few fights that, kind of fall through his finger cracks. The Masvidal fight is out there. Masvidal was here yesterday doing a little media day and said he wants that fight. He said he wants that fight over the actual real, welterweight championship fight. The champion is Kamaru Usman at 170 pounds. There's always the Nate Diaz trilogy fight. Justin Gaethje is a guy who's been calling out Conor McGregor. And then, of course, there's the Khabib fight. Khabib is fighting on April 18th in Brooklyn, New York. Conor wants to be active. And here's the interesting thing about Khabib. He's a devout Muslim, and Ramadan starts shortly after that fight on April 18th. So if he wins on April 18th, I don't think we're going to see him again until September, until Ramadan is over, and then he can start training again, get his energy back, all that stuff and more. And so I would predict that if Conor wins, he's going to fight once, if not 2 more times before he gets to Khabib, because he just wants to make up for lost time.
Hello, everyone. It's Ariel Helwani. I just came here to thank you for watching our ESPN YouTube channel. It's the best. You know what else is the best? The ESPN app. You can get highlights, analysis, all that stuff and more. And if you want premium content and live streaming sports, there's only one place for all of that. It's ESPN Plus.